Well, I hope you can listen in today. I'm going to be talking about getting present and why that's so important for health. Like, our body has so much to say to us, but often we're so disconnected from ourselves that we can't always read what our body needs. And I've got Peter from the Drunken Monk joining us today, who leads people in really everyday, normal practices to help people get back into their body and listening to themselves and really be able to enjoy, let me just get him on. Really get to enjoy, the present. So I'm just waiting for him to join me. I had a chat with Peter last week. It was such a joy. Go live, brilliant. Able to chat to him about my story, but today he's going to be in the hot seat and we're going to be hearing all about him and hopefully learning some ways to really get present. Hey, Peter.
Hello, Sally.
It's always such a relief when finally the person comes on the screen, so it's really lovely to see you. I can only see half your face though. I can see your beard.
All right.
Oh, that's a bit better. Yeah, that's a bit better. Wonderful, great. Thanks so much. I was really worried I wasn't going to make it today. I was actually stuck in traffic from picking up my daughter from riding, desperately trying to stay present and not get really irritated with the traffic. So it's a joy. I was just recapping about why I feel from a doctor's point of view it's so important that we learn to get present in our bodies, and how actually our bodies, they want to tell us what we need. We have all these amazing feedback mechanisms, and often we just need to be able to listen to what our body's asking of us to find a pathway back to wellness and feeling well. But certainly in my own life and in my own story, and many patients that I work with over the years, the challenge of getting present, the challenge of finding practices and a language to help people get back in their body, it's a real problem. And so it's a joy, like, having you on today, because I've sort of picked up a bit on what you do, and looked at your work and tuned into some of your practices, and so I wanted to be able to draw off your wisdom and learn about what you're doing, and leave some people today with maybe some tools that they could do in their everyday to help get back into the present. So just before we start, one of my meditations at the moment has been, I think it's a quote from Mary Oliver that says, our life's work is to pay attention. And I just find myself really ruminating on that at the moment, and I find it incredibly liberating to think, gosh, if all I had to do was pay attention, it takes a lot of pressure off. But Peter, tell me, one of the disarming things about you is your broad Scottish accent and cheeky smile, and you're called the Drunken Monk, and it's not what people expect, And so tell me a little bit about your story and how you've got to where you are and what you're doing.
Okay, well, that would take a few hours, but in a nutshell, yeah, it really started when I was a kid. I was just really curious about, who am I? I just had this question, who am I? And yeah, I kept really annoying my father with these questions like, how big is space? And how does this work and that work? And, how does a bee find flowers? So that he was a scientist. So I was just very curious about the nature of spirit. And by the time I got to university, it kind of really grown in me, and I discovered meditation. And then from there, I just started traveling to the East mostly. That was what we did back in the 80s. Everybody went to India, which personally is not my place. I had some amazing experiences there, but I really love it in the West, and I wanted to know, how does spirituality and a Western lifestyle come together? So hence the Drunken Monk, so living life in all its aspects, yet with awareness, is really the kind of message that I share, that it's not about going to the East and sitting in a cave and doing your Dharma meditation and all this, Indian terminology. There is a very natural and accessible way for us to access it in the West. And that's really where I started to explore psychotherapy, people like Almas, and more currently, we talked last week about Gabor Mate, who I think is a wonderful psychologist, wonderful guy. And I did sort of like blending psychotherapeutic massage work with exploring various techniques, and I came across the Enlightenment Intensive by Charles Berner, which is a combination of Zen and modern self-inquiry. I found that to be a profoundly transformative experience, 3-day intensive, and it just grew from there. And once I started to develop my own practice, when it became more natural and kind of stayed with me in a sense, then I just gradually started moving into sharing it with other people, and here I am, basically.
Yeah. And how have you seen that change your own life, and how do you see that change other people's lives? What do you see the fruit of that?
Okay. Well, the first thing I think is priorities. What's really important in our life? You mentioned it, being able to listen to our body. It's our body's nature to be joyful every day, to be filled with energy, enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm means to be possessed by a god, you know, so there's a clue there. And, you know, just to enjoy life, to really celebrate life, and to really fulfill our potential, whatever that is for each person. So for me, what it's really done is to align my well-being with what I do. And the priorities are not so worldly, you know, but in a balance. You know, it's still important to earn a living and to have a nice place to live and all this kind of stuff. You know, I love living in nature, and I'm very blessed to be able to do that. But primarily this clarity, so connection. So really having a connection with yourself, which is very important on a spiritual level. So there's that nourishment, that being ability to respond to my direct needs, the food that we eat, and you know, the air that we breathe, the water we drink, the people we hang out with, you know, and also mentally having a compelling future, you know, having an enthusiasm in what we're doing. I think this is such an important aspect of a conscious lifestyle. And that leads to kind of having a feeling of emotional certainty. I think if we're living out of fear and anxiety and uncertainty, and we don't have a clear vision, we don't feel connected, the body's going to start panicking. And then from that place of certainty, taking clear action, you know, taking steps towards actually manifesting, creating what it is that you want to express and the things that you want to do. And for me personally, what I found with the work I do now is really being able to serve. And I find that tremendously fulfilling, you know, just to share a meditation with a few people and to, you know, walk the path with somebody for a while. Doesn't matter for how long, but it's, in a way, it's for me personally, because I was always quite selfish as a younger man, you know, and I feel like I've found something that's more important than myself, that's bigger than me. And, you know, being able to just give is the reward. So it's had a profound impact on my life, I have to say.
And Peter Lee, I think one of the things I'm always very sensitive as a doctor is the whole kind of religion versus practices, and you know, I want this to be, you know, a platform where everybody's gathers around the table, and my impression, you know, talking to you and following you is you're talking about practices that kind of cut across any faith, really. They're practices that help people get in touch with themselves, and whatever is the other side of that spirituality, it can be used. What are your thoughts around that? And you know, for those that are watching that maybe have a certain faith, how does this fit in?
Yeah, for me personally, excuse me, for me personally, I have a deep love and a passion for Zen. I also love the Sufis, Sufism. I love reading poetry of Rumi, for example. I think he's a wonderful mystic. But I also I've drawn from many traditions, many mystery schools, Zarathustra, Taoism, you know, even the Christians have their own mystery school. The Muslim faith there's a rich history that we have through all the religions of wisdom and truth. And the way I see it is really one mountain, but many different paths.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's made my life a lot richer, kind of dipping into each of them.
Yeah.
And what I've found consistently and what I've drawn from in terms of what I share is what I've found to be in common with all these different aspects or ways of looking at the truth, like who am I without my stories? What is this consciousness? What does it mean to be, connected with my body, mind, and spirit? What is all that about? But to put it in a language that's really accessible, that is non-denominational, it's not paying homage to any particular patriarch, religion or philosophy. It's simply a direct understanding of what it is to be present, for me, for you. And I asked you that question, tell me who you are, what's it like for you? How do you do that? And to share things like, that we have in common, we all breathe, so it's for me, one of the primary anchors to be in the present moment is an awareness of the breath. In Buddhism, it would be called Vipassana, and Sufism would be something else. But it doesn't matter what the name is. It's that we all have this human experience, So it's just finding that commonality and making it accessible.
No, that's one of my passions is around language and making it accessible. And sometimes we have to change our language according to our audience in order to help with that. And for somebody who is busy in the modern world and they're making steps to get present, so where's your advice? Where's your starting point for them that might help them kind of anchor into the present and start experiencing, sort of getting back into their body and experiencing the moment and finding the joy in the moment? How do you start people on their journey?
Yeah, it's a bit like you were saying last week about having a kind of overview, a holistic overview of where they are in their life. It's impossible to sit down and meditate if your life's in crisis, so
right.
you're not going to get anywhere, and if you're going to your yoga class and you're all tense and you're worried about things, it's going to be a waste. You'll just end up injuring yourself. So the first thing is to go back to the fundamentals and what I was saying about having a clear overview of what I call the 5 pillars of challenge, which is home, health, work, relationships, and money. And just to have a look at how are things on a scale of 1 to 10 in those 5 areas.
So home, health, relationships, finances, and
career, work.
Career.
Home, health, work, relationships, and money. They actually correspond to the chakra system as well, but that's another story. But it kind of breaking things down so you kind of review, how do I feel in my home? Am I stressed? Am I comfortable there? Can I relax there? Health, am I feeling stressed? Is my body in good shape? Am I working out? Am I eating well? Am I drinking plenty of water? And am I numbing things out with Prozac and alcohol? Whatever, just to be really honest with yourself about what you're doing to cope. And there's no judgment about that. We all have our coping mechanisms, even if it's chocolate, food, or whatever. So home, health, and then work. If you're working in a job that's just sucking you dry, or are you working towards something that you're perhaps creating a project, but it's taking all your time and you're getting burnt out with it, then relationships, are they nourishing? Are you getting support? And then also, just money, are you financially secure? Or have you got some savings? Are you taking care of, keeping an eye on your economy and all this kind of stuff? So once those aspects are kind of understood, then you can start doing some work on your kind of spiritual side. But the two kind of flow together, they flow together. So again, it's coming back to, having a sense of connection, connecting to yourself. So learning some de-stressing strategies, slowing things down, putting things into perspective, prioritizing what's important, so that you kind of doing one thing at a time instead of trying to boil the ocean every day, and just, and getting help where you need help, delegating where you need to delegate, and then just focusing on just bringing your life into that balance, so that most importantly, you create space in the day for yourself to be
Yeah.
nourished. So to cook some healthy food, to be able to sit down and enjoy it without, making it an obstacle to get to the next meeting. You
Mm.
know, like so many people who eat lunch, in the office at the computer. It's just, you
Yeah.
need to find space to nourish yourself. And yeah, making the right choices about who you are in the world, how you want to actually express yourself and what's your vision, creating a compelling future,
Mm.
having that emotional alignment and that feeling of being grounded physically, so your body's relaxed, that feeling of connecting to the earth, so that you're in a place where you feel supported and safe, and that confidence that comes from just being present.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And everything flows from there. So, but taking care of those 5 areas, creating a list, prioritizing, creating space for yourself, slowing things down, and then you can start using the tools for meditation, yoga, tai chi, whatever your practice is, to
Yeah.
really, nourish your energetic body and your spirit.
Yeah. Now, going on about meditation. So again, for some, of my patients and people I work with, they find it such a foreign concept. They find the word meditation doesn't help. They will be thinking that you've got to be in India, you've got to be a yogi. It's for a certain temperament. I often get that, oh no, I'm not the type. Like, can you unpack meditation in a language that helps people? What is it? And what are your tips around exploring that, and how do we do that safely?
Yeah, the word meditation, I kind of discard it when I can, but it's almost like one of these completely misunderstood words.
Yeah.
And you explained it exactly. You have to be in India, and I'm not the type, and it's not for me, and I don't have time.
Yeah.
And for me, what I say is, well, it's nothing to do with time. It's to mediate. If the root of the word meditation is to mediate with part of you that is aware, that mediates with your environment, with the content of your experience in this moment,
Yeah.
but without being distracted or hijacked by a relentless stream of thinking,
Yeah.
or a relentless stream of unwanted thinking. So it's like you're mediating with your environment, both your inner environment and
Yeah.
also your outer environment.
No.
But rather than explain all that, what I prefer to do is just to ask people, well, are you present? Or like, how often do you find yourself just constantly thinking? How is that for you?
Mm.
Would you like to be able to just relax without thinking?
Yeah.
And so to get them to kind of inquire into, like, how would you like to feel right now?
Yeah.
What would it feel like for you to be absolutely fulfilled in this moment? To
Mm.
completely be joyful, connected, relaxed, open, peaceful, energized, creative. What difference would that make to your life? And it's like, okay.
Sounds good. Sign me up.
Yeah. Does that come in a pack of 5 or what? And then I kind of say, well, what do you do to nourish yourself in the day? So it's then coming back to like taking space and just getting back into the body and getting into listening to the body, when you've got that pain in the stomach, instead of reaching for the Rennies, stop drinking 10 cups of coffee every day, because it's the coffee that keeps you going that will get you in the end, So it's just bringing that self-awareness into daily things, small things,
Yeah.
and just noticing improvements gradually that kind of, and then the thing is, our body is healthy and nourished, meditation follows like a shadow. You don't even have to think about it. It's just that natural feeling of ease and connectedness and calm and peacefulness, and
Yeah.
colors become a little brighter and sounds a little sharper.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
being present without suffering with this mental anxiety.
Yeah. And do you think so what's my question? Do you do you think there's a place for, so I really agree, I love everything you've said there. I love that that concept of what the definition of the word is, that sort of mediation between my inner world and my outer world, and that listening and being aware, and you know, and the fruits of being present, you know, just wonderful. And but do you think there's a place, like certainly in research, there's a place for some more prolonged meditation, you know, where they show that it, I don't know, increases your brain, you know, derived neurotrophic factor, which improves your brain plasticity and helps behavioural change. And there's lots of lovely science, and when you look into the papers, it's that more extended times of meditation, so 10 or 20 minutes. And so for those that say, you know, they've taken that step, they've done an inventory of life, they're taking hold of self-care and starting to be more aware, what are those first steps, do you think, for experimenting and how to get into a kind of deeper sense of meditation? Is there a place for it? Do we need to do it? What are your thoughts, and how do we do that?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's really a wonderful way to nourish yourself, and also to be able to manage your state. Because once you start to connect with yourself and you are able to move more into stillness, then things really start to get interesting. You know, because for one thing, it's like you start to connect with it, what I was saying, your enthusiasm, your kind of sense of purpose, having a sense of meaning. Even for many people, this feeling of being guided, you know, that they have this compelling urge they have to learn to play the piano or go to Africa and help with clean water projects. You know, we all have a kind of a purpose to fulfill in some way. For me, the primary purpose for everybody is to kind of get to that place, that kind of awakened state where there's this feeling of being really connected and at home in yourself, without feeling anxious or disturbed. And so the practice of presence, being able to kind of move into silence, what happens with the brain waves is the left and right hemispheres move into balance, and then we move through the alpha, beta, theta and delta wave patterns start to become more in balance. There's this kind of harmonization. You call it it's like a Coca-Cola bottle if you measured it. It's all measurable now. I love technology and all this stuff. You know, so you can measure your delta waves, and delta waves are extremely nourishing. So when you're able to move into that place where the alpha waves are calmed down because you're not thinking anymore, you're not being distracted by the thoughts, you're not feeding them. And then moving into delta states, equivalent of getting a deep sleep when we go into deep sleep at night. So it can be, I mean, it can be like a power nap. So 15, 20 minutes of that can really rest and recharge your body and really lift you up. And also what flows from there is that because the mind's clear, is this intuition that we all possess, this connection to something bigger than us. You know, creative ideas will flow. If you're trying to solve problems, they're more likely to arise from that space than just having your eyebrows crunched together trying to figure it out. You know, when we get...
It is beautiful, Peter, because all the science is there. Like it's, and you know, the last sort of 10, 15 years, all these ancient practices that have been going on for centuries that nurture and nourish our body, you know, and now, like, you know, science is catching up really in explaining some of what's happening and the powerful benefits of it. I've loved silent sort of retreats, and I've done extended ones over the years where I'll go for 7 days and do a silent retreat. But it's fascinating, the process. I find like almost day 2 like the hardest thing to get through, because my mind doesn't want to stop doing the hamster wheel thing, and I found things such as, you know, using imagination for contemplation, nature, walking. Blackberry picking is often my thing. I'll be there picking blackberries and suddenly it's like, oh, my mind has quietened down. I can finally really hear what's going on. Do you have other, you've mentioned breath as well as a wonderful way to kind of center, and again, there's so much science behind really good breathing. In your, how do you lead people? Again, is it according to how they're wired, or do you have particular things that can help them in that journey?
Yeah, no, there's particular kind of modalities that I use, but really the first thing is connection and focus.
Yeah.
Like where focus goes, energy flows. So I do things like make a commitment to hold your focus in the present moment for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like setting up the issue of permission, as I call it, to say, okay, for 15 minutes, everybody's got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I use kind of 3-letter acronyms to kind of help people remember: be grounded, present, and open, or grounded, present, and grateful. So what that means is being grounded is connecting to the body. As soon as you bring your attention into the body, relax your legs, feel your feet on the ground, and using the breath, just following the breath. And as you breathe out, when you breathe out, the body will automatically relax. It just, there's that feeling of release. So it's bringing people's attention into how the body behaves, the physiology part, and then connecting to the senses, so like, being like a deer in the forest. So being relaxed but alert, so, listening, just using the modality of listening. What's the taste in my mouth? Breathing through the nose. What do I see right now? And just bringing that focus into being present. So not allowing the mind to kind of hijack things. And then even when thoughts are there, it's like, okay, see them as shooting stars. So rather than trying to wrestle the mind into silence, just let it do its thing, like kids playing in the garden. But developing it a little bit more when we start to embrace our thoughts and place our attention on them, they start to change. And I don't mean it, by being absorbed by them, but having a kind of giving them space.
Yeah.
Much like a parent is kind of approaching a child. It's like I'm present and I'm listening, and I'm listening with my heart. And then literally feeling the thoughts like shooting stars or rain falling into the heart space and connecting them with them there. That gives a very different quality to understanding what is driving those thoughts. Because all thoughts are a part of us. They're coming from the subconscious. There's a subject-object relation, what's called object relations in psychotherapy. And there's usually an emotion around it, So when we start to observe those triads that are floating around in our personality, they start to change. And this is what quantum physics is actually showing as well, the power of observation. Mystics have known this for centuries, but when we start to just gently observe these patterns that are emerging, and when they start to move into our conscious mind without us trying to change anything and remaining relaxed, staying present, things will start to unfold. So being grounded, present, and open. So being grounded, connected to the body, being present, simply being aware, and then being open, just observing whatsoever is the content of your experience, and just being present with it. And that is incredibly powerful.
And then one of the things I've loved from Gabor Mate has been this term he uses, the compassionate inquiry, which again you've alluded to earlier on. The attitude towards ourselves being one of kindness and curiosity and just listening. And again, it's had such a profound impact on my own spiritual walk and journey of, instead of telling myself I'm stupid or that's silly to feel that, or banishing certain thoughts and berating myself, just actually taking the time to go, what is it that you're saying to me, and how can I respond to that, has been such a change. And you talk about that. Is that part of your practice as well, and how you lead people?
Yeah, definitely. As you get more into the advanced stages of being able to be grounded, present, and open, and then observing the inner talk and starting to understand the inner dialogue that's going on. So what I recommend for a lot of people in the practice is to, write it down. you know, and using the home, health, work, relationships, money to kind of create categories, you know. So for example, in relationships, you know, why does this always happen to me? You know, so this is what I show is that it's a low quality question. You know, it's just an example. I'm not saying anything more about it, but when we give our subconscious low quality questions, we're giving it, you know, garbage in, garbage out. It's like a computer. So we can understand what the negative self-talk and, you know, especially low self-esteem. You know, why am I, you said it yourself, I'm not good enough, you know. And we all have that, I'm not something enough. You know, it's a very common kind of low self-esteem thing. So we can change that, the patterns that we do use in our world, just change it. So, well, what's good about this? You know, what can I do to change this around? What can I do to feel more confident? What would it feel like to be empowered and creative? And one thing I do to illustrate this, because we're starting to move into the process of being able to manifest and really to create our world inside and outside with the power of our consciousness. You know, for example, to illustrate it, if I say to you, imagine you're holding a lemon, you know, so a Sicilian lemon is half peeled and the juice is dripping down your fingers. And imagine what it would feel like to take a bite of that lemon. You know, what would that be like? It's like, oh. Yeah, exactly, you know, that's how powerful our minds are.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, the subconscious, our consciousness doesn't know what's real in life and what's, you know, just in our imagination. So if I switch it for a peach and I ask you to do that, imagine you've got this great big juicy peach, you know, just from the summer, and you just take a bite of it, or a mango, you know, and it's like, oh, and your mouth waters in a different way, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
You know?
Amazing.
So, you know, so then we're going more deeply into the, you know, consciously manifesting what we create, because when we give ourselves a lot of negative thoughts, we're just adding a lot of toxins and acidity literally into our bodies. So we need to be aware of that so that we guard our mind, so that our thinking is clear and is positive and is juicy. So rather than sucking a lemon all day, nothing wrong with lemons, but you know, we've got that choice, and to understand we have that choice and not to kind of move into that victim state of like, you know, poor me, there's nothing I can do. It's not true. It's not, and everybody has that choice to suck a peach.
That's I've just listened to you all day. Peter, just for those that, what have you got? When we hear ourselves like this, do we need a psychologist? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, when there's nothing wrong with psychologists, you know. I mean, I wouldn't be saying, it depends on your relationship with a psychologist and what your needs are, if things are working for you or not. We all have our own path to follow, so lots of tools out there, and certainly having a connection with somebody who's a therapist or a counselor or a breath worker or a psychologist or whatever, absolutely. And you know, you need to gauge the impact it's having in your life. If it's supporting you, if it feels good, if you're being nourished by it, then absolutely.
I would echo that. And there's different things for different seasons, aren't there, in your, you know, as you mature and you become wholehearted, and it's having the wisdom and trusting, you know, your instinctively what you think's right for that season. And I think therapists can offer an incredible amount of help in different people's journeys, especially if people have had a lot of trauma. It can be quite a scary journey to do on your own. And sadly, I would say 3/4 of my patients have terrible childhood trauma and need the safety of a skilled guide. So yes, I definitely think there's a place. And how do people sort of connect with you? You do some meditations online where people can join, can't they? And so just tell me a little bit about your current work and how people can connect with you.
Yes, well, obviously through Instagram. So the lovely Veronica does all the Instagram social media, so everything's usually published on this platform. And yeah, we're constantly working online and in person. So we have the website, thedrunkenmonk.org. You'll find everything under events. And the next online event is going to be the 4th of October, A Path to Self-Realization, a 4-week meditation course. So I'll be sharing everything that I've been sharing today, but obviously be going into much more depth and developing a practice as well. And also I complement the online sessions with a kind of open channel for communication so people can ask questions and feel supported. And then obviously, yeah, with the next Enlightenment Intensive, the in-person will be in Mandali Retreat Center in February,
and that's in Italy, is it?
That's in Italy, yes, yes. So details on the web, but that's really, for me, it is an intensive process. It is very transformative. It's the core of all the work that I do, and a Drunken Monk comes from there.
Yeah. Well, let's just see. Just there was a question. Just something about children. Thank you, but also for children, the meditation would work so nourishing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly support, bringing kids into meditation. You don't need to kind of force them to do something, but you can make it into a game, Hey, let's see who can be the quietest the longest. So close your eyes and don't think, The first person to start thinking has to do the dishes.
But I find kids, simple things like we need to imitate kids on some stuff, because there's things like you're getting them colouring. If I colour in as an adult, it's a wonderful way of slowing down and taking time and letting the mind just slow down. And I think kids are way more engaged and more of a challenge now with all of the screens, but certainly traditionally I think they naturally are more attentive, more present, more playful, more immersed in the present, and they're not worrying about dinner or what's going to happen in the future, or I think we have much to learn from children in terms of kind of being attentive. But yes, I do think especially sleep practices I see helpful. So in clinic, doing a practice with your child before bed can be really helpful, if they have difficulty sleeping. But anyway, Peter, thank you so much. And I really hope people connect with you and just totally sort of advocate just for these wonderful tools to help people enjoy life and be present and be, the best best version of ourselves. So it's been a joy to chat. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thanks for everybody that joined us today. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sally. It's a real pleasure.
It has. We'll speak again.
Yes, thank you so much. Lovely to connect with you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Namaste.